Let's go.
Okay, according to Mr. Lynch, we are live and we are ready to begin. So, greetings everyone and welcome to day three of Mr. Lynch, School of Engineering, Engineering Insights. It's been a very incredible number of days so far, and I do wish to thank every member who has contributed to the success of the event, as well as for the discussions that we've been having over the past 2 days. My name is Alex McFarlane. I am the UTech JA School of Engineering president for this academic year, as well as the student representative from the university's students union. And my co-host today, I will just allow him quickly to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, President McFarlane. Yes, my name is John Daniel Martin. I am the president of the Jamaica Institution of Engineers UTech chapter. I'm also the director of mentorship for the School of Engineering Council. And I just want to say a big thank you to all our panelists that came out tonight, and also our very loyal base of participants that has been participating over these 3 days. So thank you again for coming out. And over back to you, sir.
Yes, and thank you, John Daniel, for being here alongside myself. So today we'll be continuing our 3-day session of Engineering Insights with expectations versus reality, the art of being an engineer and how to build a good engineer. Today I am joined by various speakers from across the different fields, and I will just go into our introductions with them. And I'll ask Mr. John Daniel Martin to assist myself as well. So first, and this person is no stranger to a lot of us here, I would like to introduce Dr. Paul Campbell. He has been lecturing full-time at the University of Technology, Jamaica since 2005. He hails from Clarendon, a son of teachers and farmers. His first degree was in chemical engineering, specializing in environmental engineering, but his master's and PhD were in mechanical engineering, specializing in thermal sciences. He returned to Jamaica after his studies abroad because of his desires to invest his knowledge and skills in his nation. During his 15 years as an academic professional, Dr. Campbell has grown much in his perspectives and ideals. More and more each day, he embraces a simple worldview founded in humility and respect for those who society typically disregards. His greatest concern is that our youth are quick to devalue older perspectives and to mindlessly embrace popular modern viewpoints. Even though he is keen on delivering knowledge to his students at the highest standard possible at the global level, he also believes that truth embodied in the person of Jesus Christ is infinitely more valuable than scientific knowledge and facts. Dr. Campbell wishes above all that every student he meets will be emancipated from the slaveries of the present world and be ushered into glorious life that our God and Creator has ordained for us. Dr. Campbell is married with 3 kids, and he continues to maintain the heritage of farming amidst other demands of this life. Please help me introduce Dr. Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Hi guys. Alex said everything. Thanks for that introduction.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. Yes, I will now introduce Miss Melissa Townsend. She is a professional engineer, also the Vice President for Marketing and Publication of the Jamaica Institution of Engineers. Miss Melissa Townsend is the project engineer, is a professional engineer, is a project engineer, at the National Water Commission, and is interested in alleviating Jamaica's various challenges between the built and natural environment. She holds, she holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil and Environmental Engineering. She holds a Bachelor of Science, no, she holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of West Indies, St. Augustine. Miss Townsend was also awarded a Chevin scholarship to pursue a Master's of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. I would hope that she will impart her knowledge onto us. So let me welcome Miss Melissa Townsend.
Evening, everyone.
Evening, ma'am. How are you this evening?
Okay.
Alex.
All right, thank you very much. And it is also with great pleasure that I also introduce Mr. Steve Johnson, Vice President for Education and Partnership at the JIE, sorry. Steve Johnson is a mechanical engineer UTech graduate with an associate degree from the Caribbean Maritime University. He has over 25 years of experience in the local manufacturing, power generation, petroleum, and construction sectors. He has also worked as a technical advisor to power plants in the Eastern Caribbean, and is now currently employed as a mechanical projects engineer since 2012 at Quality Plus Contracting Company. Please help me introduce Mr. Steve Johnson.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's likewise, sir. It's our pleasure to have you here as well. I will now introduce Miss Jan Walter. She is a UTech graduate with the Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering and a Master of Science in Engineering Management. Currently, she is a process control engineer at Jamaica with over 4 years of experience. Her job requires her to be responsible for the automation of plant processes and provide the support required to optimize a high consistent level of production, of production thought throughout the plant by providing process control data to customers in a timely, useful manner. She is also the founder of the Walk Good Project, a nonprofit organization and a consultation agency for over 6 years. I ask that you welcome Miss Jan Walters to this evening. Miss Walter, me. Miss Jan?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you for being here. It is also with great pleasure that I will introduce our next speaker for tonight, Mr. Eric Parker. He's an electrical engineering graduate from the University of Technology and the University of the West Indies. Currently, he sits on the board of Professional Engineering Registration Board and is the CEO of his very own consultant agency, Debor Engineering Consultancy and Maintenance Services. With over 11 years of experience, they specialize in not only engineering consultancy, but property and facilities maintenance management, project management, equipment maintenance, and so much more. Please help me introduce Mr. Oret Parker. And I see that he is not here as yet, so we'll just continue on until he arrives.
Yeah. All right. So moving along, I would like to introduce Dr. Leighton Ellis. He is a construction and structural engineering graduate from he is a University of Technology graduate. He holds a construction and structural engineering degree. He holds a diploma and bachelor of science in both of these fields. And he holds a master and doctorate from the University of West Indies. He also holds a Master of Business Administration in Leadership, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation from Anglia Ruskin University of Cambridge in England, beginning as a lecturer at the University of West Indies, St. Augustine in 2008, for lecturing at the University of West Indies here in Mona, Jamaica. He now sits as both lecturer and Deputy Dean of Quality Assurance for the Faculty of Engineering. And let's not forget to mention his consultant agency, LNZ Consultants, LLC in Trinidad and Tobago, where they specialize in project management and construction dispute resolution. Let me welcome Dr. Layton Ellis for me, please.
Good to be here tonight.
Good to be here, sir. Thank you that you're here today. I appreciate that you're here.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Ellis, as well. Dr. Ellis, my bad, definitely. Dr. Ellis.
No worries, sir. No worries, sir. Title just a title.
All right, sir. Thank you. And last but not least, I will introduce our final panelist for tonight, Mr. Stanley Smelly. No, Mr. Smelly is employed at the University of the West Indies, Mona, where he's at the forefront of its engineering energy management program. He's integrally involved in the design, development, implementation, and oversight of the campus's energy conversion and efficiency program, which also includes verification of energy conversion, conservation, and efficiency measures, energy policy formulation and development, energy awareness programs, renewable energy technology projects, and sustainable energy management research. Stanley is currently pursuing a PhD in sustainable development at UWI during the period of September 2018 and October 2019. He was a visiting PhD researcher at the Center of Environment and Sustainability at the University of Surrey, located in the United Kingdom. His PhD research focuses on addressing some of the technical and policy challenges of integrating distributed energy resources into a power grid, such as Jamaica's, for example. He's also an adjunct lecturer in his area of expertise at UWI and at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Please help me introduce Mr. Stanley Smith.
Thank you. Happy to be here. And thanks for having me.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. And with that said, we'll get right into it, right, John Daniel?
Yes, sir.
Our first point of the agenda, we will be speaking about the Jamaica Institution of Engineers. And I feel there's no better person than Mr. Steve Johnson and Ms. Townsend herself to speak on this. So we'll hand over right to them.
So, yes.
I should go ahead.
Well, I believe I wanted to start off with our questions first, but
No problem. Go ahead. Yes. Okay. Excellent.
but hear me out, sir. Hear me out. I think we should hear from your perspective. What is your experience with the GIE so far?
Well, I've been on council now for 5 years, and it's been quite a rewarding 5 years. My first 3 years were as honorary treasurer, and last year and this year, I'm now the VP for education and partnership. It has been, I'd say, an eye-opening experience. I've made a lot of contacts with a lot of engineers, not only in Jamaica, but also across the wider Caribbean. So for me, it has been quite fulfilling. It has helped my overall development as a person, and it gives me an opportunity to basically give back to the Jamaica diaspora, give back to Jamaica academia, whichever way you want to phrase it, but to give back of my time and help to assist other upcoming engineers and also students engineer to help achieve all their potentials and all their goals. So it has been quite rewarding for me.
That's quite interesting because I believe both of us share the same ideologies, so to speak. Because, as I said, the president now, and I believe that I've been placed in this position to help my fellow engineering students to gain a better understanding of the work we're going out there as they leave university.
Okay.
Ms. Townsend, let me hear your experience so far as a part of the GIE.
I would say the same similar sentiments to Steve. It's been a very good experience. Just from joining JE as just a member, it has allowed me to give me the opportunity to network with fellow engineers, to get more ideas from them, get some great experiences from other engineers as well. And then I've actually been on the JIE council since around maybe 2013, if I remember correctly. Started as a graduate member on council. Then I became just an ordinary member. And then right after I was honorary secretary, which was a good experience as well. And then now I'm VP of marketing and publications for the past 2 years. 2 years now. So I think for sure, the GIE it's been good, and of course it gives you a opportunity to for professional development or even just in general personal development, even improving your leadership skills as well. So it's been good.
Good, that's good. All right, let me not hold up any more time. I'm going to jump straight into some of our questions here. What is the role of the JIE, if I may ask? So that's a lot of questions that the students are asking.
Melissa, I think I'll take this one for you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, as you know, the GIE exists, and I'm going to quote directly from their website. So, basically, to promote and encourage the advancement of the engineering profession, the practice and science of engineering, and to facilitate the exchange of information ideas among members of the institution and and the public. Now, basically, in a nutshell, the GIE is the lobbying arm of the engineering fraternity in Jamaica. I mean, it is the main professional body that represents engineers, and we do a lot of work behind the scenes. That a lot of persons are not aware of in terms of ensuring that our engineers graduate and they have access to suitable employment. We constantly lobby the government to ensure that there is a cap on the amount of engineers that may come into the country when we have those necessary, we have those skill set here. Also, in terms of other aspect, in terms of legislation, the building code that was recently passed was pushed through by the GIE. And we also work closely with PERB. As you know, PERB members are nominated by the GIE, and PERB being the professional registration of the engineering fraternity in Jamaica. So the GIE works quite closely with them. And also, as I said before, the student chapters are there. The GIE work very closely with the student chapters to ensure that there is a cadre of well qualified, well rounded engineers coming out of these institutions, whether the University of the Western, CMU, or UTech, to ensure that they are there to fill the gaps in any vacancy that might exist in engineering discipline in Jamaica.
Thank you, Engineer Johnson, for that lovely response there. I'm pretty sure our listeners will understand more, and if I can explain to them more going on in our meetings. The next question that I have is, I'm an engineer wanting to become a member of the GIE. Are there any requirements I should know about?
Mhm. Melissa, I think I'm kind of slightly prepared for this one also.
Go ahead. Take the floor, Steve. Take the floor.
I'm
Take
going
the
to leave
floor.
the last one for you. So, okay. So, as you guys know, you have the GIE website, which is giejamaica.org. You can go on the website and download the form. There is a form there, but I'm going to just in a little nutshell, as best as possible, kind of highlight what are the requirements to become a member of the GIE. So one of the things is that we have different classes of membership types. Sorry, membership types. So you have the student member, you have a graduate member, you have a corporate member, and you have a affiliate member. And just to run down those briefly. So student members are just like students attending UTech, UE, or any tertiary institution pursuing an engineering degree. You have the graduate members. I mean, those are persons who have recently graduated from whatever tertiary institution and probably have about 1 year or so working experience. Um, Corporate members have 2+ years of working experience. Um, and affiliate members are basically non-engineering programs. So that would include like your mathematics, your physics, or any other program that is approved by the GIE. Now, in order to become a member, you must, apart from the students, corporate and graduate members must have a degree which is recognized by the GIE, which is also recognized by the University Council, accredited program recognized by the University Council of Jamaica. And also we take, apart from local members, we also take foreign members. But what happens is that whenever they're sending their resumes, their application forms, we usually do cross checks with our various partners across whatever region they're from, whether the US or wherever. We have a partnership with other engineering bodies across the world. And we always email them, we always contact them and try to verify the validity of those degrees. And then from there, those persons can become members of the GIE.
Okay. All
And
right.
of course,
Thank you.
like anything, just one thing, just like anything, there's a small little fee that you have to pay. Student members are free. We don't want to charge our students. We want to encourage graduate members. Presently, it's $5,000 per year. Corporate membership is $7,500 per year. And for affiliate members, it's $3,500 per year.
Duly noted. I'll line up myself when I finish you for those fees. Moving on, there's another question. Has there anything been put in place for the student engineers apart from the student chapters? Who,
I'm gonna hand that one is a bouncer. I'm gonna hand that over to Melissa.
all right, no problem. That's who wish to continue in the GI membership, right? So, Mr. Townsend, if you may.
Well, for the students, we also have, some of us have an internship program for the students. So whenever persons have graduated, we will call on our fellow GIE members who have firms of their own, or even just other organizations in general, to see if they can take on any students. So the student chapter, GIE members within the student chapter will have that opportunity. And just being a member in general with the GIE, you have access to various information, access to other engineers just to get information from them. We also have training and courses available for all of our members. And whenever we have our own training, we have discounted prices, especially for our members. So there are various opportunities, various benefits for
And,
students and members in general.
and just to add to what Melissa said, what you find is that whenever affiliated bodies across the world wish to engage our engineering students, whether through scholarships or support or whatever training seminar, they generally contact the GIE and ask GIE to make recommendations or put out an advert requesting persons to apply for whatever scholarship. And also what you find is that the engineering and construction companies, they generally contact the GIE first whenever they need new engineers or whenever they're doing summer work programs. They always contact the GIE and ask GIE for assistance in identifying and getting students or fresh graduates to join their organization. So there's, as Melissa said, there's that and a lot more.
Yes, very true. Because even the other day we had some of our members got the opportunity to become certified energy managers, and the corporation that did it, they reached out to us first, seeking engineers within the GIE to be a part of that course.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that is really interesting. I must say I'm impressed. I'm impressed. My final question to you all, because you guys already touched on some of the benefits of being a member of the GIE. So, is the GIE membership globally recognized or just only localized to Jamaica?
Mel, you wanna touch that, or you want me to touch a little bit and then?
You can start, Steve.
All right, so I'm just gonna membership. Let's start locally first. I mean, the GIE is well recognized and amongst professional bodies in Jamaica. Um, it is the go-to body for, as I said, for companies, organization wishing to engage the services or get engineers within their organization. Regionally, we have a number of bodies that we associate regionally. Um, we have the Associate Professional Engineers of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers. We have the Latin America and Caribbean Consortium of Engineering Institution. There is also the ISTROCI, the International Structural Engineering Institution, which we are quite active with them. Also, in terms of governments across the region, not only in Jamaica, but across the region, governments do recognize the GIE. In Canada, we have a very close relationship with the Canadian Civil Engineering Association. And from time to time, they are a participant in our engineering week. Also in England, we also have affiliates there. I don't quite remember the exact name of the affiliate in England, but we do have affiliates there. And also the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and American Society of Civil Engineers. We're also affiliated with them. So from time to time, they make contact with us just to keep in touch. And if there's any new development in the engineering field, they always inform us. So globally, regionally, we have a number of partners. And as I say, we are fully recognized by all our partners as the professional arm and representative, if you want to put it that, for all engineers in Jamaica.
All right, thank you, both Ms. Townsend and Mr. Johnson. Thank you very much for those insightful.
Even though I'm not
Sir.
from the GIE, could I add one other brief contribution? I speak on behalf of other professional organizations. For example, I was instrumental in establishing the Jamaica Society of Energy Engineers back in about 2012 it was. And as with any more specialized engineering entity, you would have, of course, affiliation with international organizations. In our case, it would be the Association of Energy Engineers, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, when we were establishing the local chapter, however, of the Association of Energy Engineers, it was, you would say, endorsed or formally established through the JIE. So it was the president of the JIE who officially established that local entity. And so I'm saying that to say it's not, their role is not just for themselves, but for other associations of energy engineers, specialists association of energy engineers. So they support those.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for that addition. As I didn't know that myself, so I'm well informed now. So I feel even prouder now as the president of the chapter now. So I'll hand over to my co-host, Sir McFarlane. Do we have any questions for our panelists in the chat?
I believe we have maybe just one or two, and this question is obviously directed to Mr. Johnson and Miss Townsend. Um, her name is Danica Watson from the YouTube Live. Would you guys be interested in mentoring students from our students chapter? I believe, I'm not completely sure which chapter she's speaking on, whether it be our own at UTech here or the ones that are from our neighboring brother and sister engineering schools from UA and CMU. But this is a question that is actually very good. Would you guys be interested in mentoring students from the students chapter?
All right. Just so, Melissa, I'm gonna go first, and then you can add to it. We have no issues mentoring students. As a matter of fact, we are presently working very closely with the students at UE Mona, the civil engineering division, and I've been basically providing mentorship for those groups, through the president and the vice president, assisted them in terms of doing projects, and whenever they have any questions, any queries, we're always there for them. So it has been something that we've been doing, is something that has been ongoing, and we welcome more. We welcome more students to assist them, to provide mentorship, so that the knowledge that we have can be transferred to them, so that whenever they come into the profession fully, then they already have an excellent base to work with. So it is absolutely no issue. It is no problem to bring on more for us. But as always, persons who wish to be mentored, they contact the JIE, and then from there the JIE will contact the other engineers and say, hey, are you available? Can you mentor these students? So we do have a process that is followed, and once that is done, then we're good. You know what I mean? And the JIE can match up the students with an established engineer in their discipline.
Okay, excellent, Sir Johnson. Excellent.
I don't know if Melissa have anything to add to that.
No, I think you said it all, Steve. Yes, we are more than willing to mentor the student engineers. So as Steve said, just contact us. What you're thinking of, what person you're looking to be mentored by. So you just email us at je@cwjamaica.com, or just send us a message on either Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn. Just look for us, JIE Jamaica, or just Jamaica Institution of Engineers, and you find us and you just contact us, and we reply right away.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Townsend, and thank you, Mr. Johnson. I hope that likewise with what Miss Watson from the line, that everybody else took note of what was said and how to contact the JIE for them to be more involved within our student chapters. I would have actually known about the involvement within the UA Mona student chapter for the JIE, because I am actually in communications with the Mona Engineering Society president, Mr. Niall Anderson there. So I would have actually heard great things like this being done, and I can see why Ms. Watson should want to involve this further within the University of Technology School of Engineering. So I thank you more for that. I don't believe that we have any further questions. So I will hand back over to my co-host for the first giveaway.
Yeah.
All right. So our first giveaway will be, my guess will be a credit, $500 credit. And I want to ask the question of the lines of what is the year in which the JIE was formed? What year was the year JIE was formed? And also it's a two-parter. And also give me two other names besides Mr. Johnson and Ms. Townsend who are part of the executive body of the JIE. So just answer in the chat and we'll contact you for who's the first winner of that. So, all right, I don't want everybody to know be saying, yes, here I am. No, this is a process. All right, I'll go hand back over to Alex for our next section.
All right, Alex, I don't know if you guys hearing me. All right, so just to interject a little bit, guys. So I want to thank you for having me, but unfortunately I have to take my leave now. You guys have my email and my contact number, so you guys can feel free to contact me at any time. It was a pleasure being a part of this webinar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. And I will be most definitely contacting you soon as per to next semester of our club meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank you, Ms. Townsend. I'm not sure if you're leaving as well, but we appreciate the time that you took to be here for our Engineering Insights series for day 3 and to speak on the Jamaica Institution of Engineers. And I believe that hopefully that the members who are here with us on the live, our students and well-wishers, would have taken something away from your responses to the questions and your overall presentation. So I thank you very much. And I will be moving right along into the series. And the next section, while we are also taking the comments for the question that Mr. Martin had just asked, we'll be moving right into engineering degrees. Now, the basis of this point would to highlight the degrees that our panelists, our 3 of our panelists would have here. Specifically, we have Dr. Leighton Ellis and Dr. Paul Campbell, who, as the term today, has a philosophy, a doctorate, PhD for their engineering professions here. And we also have Miss Jana.
Miss Walt, yes, she should be here.
Sorry about that. We also have another panelist here who would have completed their masters as well, and that is something that is very, 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 very like everything else is hard to attain, and shows how committed she is in actually pursuing her engineering degree. So I again welcome the 3 panelists here: Dr. Leighton Ellis, the Deputy Dean of Quality Assurance from the University of the West Indies, Mona; Dr. Paul Campbell, the Associate Professor for the University of Technology, and Ms. Jana Walters, who is the Process Control Engineer at Jamaica. And I believe that they're all here right now. So we'll jump right into the questions for them. And let's start off with the PhD holders. I will start off with Mr. Ellis. What is the area of, what is your specialization regarding your doctorate, sir?
My PhD is in construction engineering specifically. Yeah.
And could you just tell us a little bit of what it's like pursuing your PhD?
Well, a PhD, I believe anyone can start one, but not many finish them. And it's not because I think it's ridiculously difficult. It requires a level of tenacity to stick throughout the entire journey. And I think that's where many fall short, because life happens. You have kids, you have family, you have all these things that happen in the process. And I think those things kind of crowd out why many are unable to finish in the timeline that they expected to, or even just to finish overall. And interest can totally wane throughout the entire process. So that's just what it is. So for all those who seek to pursue one, I would definitely recommend go ahead and pursue it. Just note very well that the drive you have at the start, it's difficult to maintain it. So normally you need a purpose bigger than yourself for which to maintain you through the lows, because there are lots of lows throughout the process. It's literally a roller coaster. So that's something I would definitely recommend.
Okay, and Dr. Ellis, if you can tell us exactly about your experience. I know that you kind of gave a bit of a generalized idea of what it's like pursuing.
For me, I had a good supervisor, but I know how friends who didn't. And supervisors can be one of the challenges you have in the process. That's why they literally tell you when selecting a supervisor, consider it's a long-term relationship you're entering. You want to make sure that you and that person can click very well. Not just that the person is the expert in the field, but that on a personal level, you can actually relate to them almost as a friend in that sense. For me, I had a good supervisor. One of the things that caused a little delay for me is that the supervisor and I had some difference of agreement as to what should be included. And so he had requested that I included something that I felt I should have left out. And because of that, for an entire year, I couldn't write. because every time I sat before the computer to write, it just made no sense to me. And then at my defense, the examiners asked me, why did I include it? The very same thing that I didn't want to include. So you still have to stick to your guns when you can. The fortunate thing is that the world has changed a lot where you don't need a supervisor's approval. Not to say you don't want it, you definitely want it, right? Because the person is an expert in the field, but you don't need it in order to submit the document and to complete the process. So in the event there is that kind of a rift between the two, you can still press on and champion all the way through to the end. But I wouldn't suggest that you go in with the attitude that I'm gonna do it by myself. It's a process that you want someone that has walked the path before to guide you through, especially when it comes to those low points. You need that kind of a support. And I found that my supervisor was a good one. So I had a fairly decent experience. The struggle for me was working and study, and family occurred in the process. So that again lengthened the timeline and my original plan. But I still wouldn't change anything.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. And you would have even answered my follow-up question, which would have been, how did you overcome them? And you'd even also answer another question, which was that based on your experience, what would you advise the students who would have been interested in pursuing a PhD? I thank you very much for your responses.
You're welcome.
And I will now hand over to Dr. Paul Campbell and ask him the similar questions. Your area of specialization, Dr. Campbell.
Unmute.
Dr. Campbell, I believe you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I did my master's and PhD in mechanical engineering, thermal sciences at Stanford University. My experience, what Dr. Ellis said is really on point. And so I would say I would give you the alternative experience, which is that I was not married and I had no children. So I was sort of able to be in and out in the typical projected time, which was for the whole thing from both masters and PhD, which may seem long to you, but it's not so long. The whole thing was a total of 7 years. It was, but 5 years actually on the campus. Take graduate school as a part of your professional journey. So it is not odd to think, oh, I am, I have a family. In my case, I didn't, but I had other, let's just say, adult responsibilities that I was engaged in at that time. So it is not to be thought of as an extension of my youth. I think some people think of it like that. It's part of your professional life, just like if you decide to go, what we say is get a job. In fact, it is a job. Most graduate programs are stipend or paid for, and you have your terms of reference, and you can get fired. You have to do your job. Many graduate programs, the research-based ones, require that you're actually working as a engineer, as a consultant, as a contractor for a client of the university. And so your project is really just supporting someone's business or bottom line, put it that way. So you have to understand that your activity is still a professional activity. You are still a graduate, or you still have graduated from an engineering program, and you are applying those things. But in the meanwhile, gaining additional academic qualifications along those lines. You could have chosen the route of gaining additional professional, or probably a better word would be not just professional, but corporate qualifications, which is what the educational direction would not have given you. but it still develops you as a professional. Yes, you have to hang in there. You do not have a schedule like a 9 to 5. You have to be in the labs or wherever in the night, as if you're doing research. Um, the first part of your program, of course, is the master's program, which tends to be less research unless you have a clear direction toward research from then. And then you would have picked that route early on. You would have engaged yourself with a supervisor, introduce yourself to him. You're pretty much just as you would do job interviews. That's how you go into graduate school. So again, I'm saying don't think of it as very much of a different um, mindset that you have to employ. You have to introduce yourself, make sure you have a good, call it a CV, show yourself to be one who is keen on what you're about and that you're willing to take instructions. Your supervisor is it's a very tricky relationship because they'll all come to you and say we are colleagues, and you're saying yeah we are colleagues, but you know that you know they can kick you out. They call you
I,
by
I,
their first
I
name
see
and
Dr.
all.
Ellis nodding in agreement.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
Yeah, man.
most
Yeah, man.
definitely.
Especially if you go to the European, well, not European, English or US schools, they have on they kind of try to adopt that blue collar mentality, but don't be fooled by it. Do your work. Um, do your work. Um, so my experience, it was challenging, but I didn't have a lot of, though I had a lot of responsibilities, but not ones where somebody else's life was dependent on me during those times. I did get married 2 years before, actually, but I had left the institution by then, and I was clear on what my thesis was before I graduated. And my son was born 3 months before my degree was awarded, so it wasn't really a interference. Yeah. Now, regarding the graduate programs that are not research based, you can now turn over to Miss Walters.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Campbell, for your response. And thank you again, Dr. Ellis, for sharing your experience in regards to this. And likewise, I would like to hand over to Ms. Jayan Walters now and basically ask her the same questions. What is your area of specialization with your master's and the other questions that will follow?
So I recently completed my Master's Science in Engineering Management at the University of Technology. One of the main challenges during the course or initially was the fact that I work. So going to school and working is a whole new ballgame because you have professional commitments. As Dr. Campbell mentioned, you can be fired. So essentially, it is managing those professional and personal commitments whilst meeting your academic commitments and also your own professional goals and desires. So initially, I think it started out a little bit rocky because I work in Clarendon, so I had to travel from Clarendon to Kingston, sometimes for 3-hour classes, and then back home to Old Harbor. And I remember complaining to my lecturer at the time, or one of my lecturers, and I was saying to him how hard it was, and he responded. He said, when I was doing my PhD, I had a wife to take care of. I had my daughter, and she was very sick, and she was in the hospital every day. And immediately it was not the response that I was looking for, but it was the best response because immediately my level of thinking was elevated. I realized that I had to do what needed to be done to get what I want. And I think that kind of helped me to develop an attitude of success. And during that time, during my course, my engineering management course, and even at work, I started to perform twice as efficient. I was doing better at work while going to school and while studying. And I had for the past 2 years, I've had really a really successful year, both academically and professionally. So in terms of time management and managing everything, you can download the apps and you can do all the read up. But if you don't have that mindset, if you don't expand your mind and develop a mindset of success and stick to your goals and your dreams, then it doesn't matter all the auxiliary stuff or the information that you try to focus on. It really begins with you. So I think that was really the best response that I could have gotten, and it has really shaped the way I look at a lot of things in terms of management of my professional career and my academic career. And a lot of us, we see people, they accomplish a lot. As a student, I was the same. You know, Dr. Campbell has his PhD, and that is quite impressive. But along the journey, a lot of sacrifices were made by a lot of people. So it is important for you to recognize that it's not always going to be an easy journey, but you have to stick to it. And I think for the students now who are in school, a lot of students are doing well and they're sticking to it. I commend them. And for the students who are not doing as well as you would want, and your GPA is not as high as you'd want, try and work on cultivating that mindset of success and going after your dreams. Don't give up on yourself, and you will find that when you elevate your level of thinking, then you will realize that success will inevitably follow.
Okay, wow, thank you. You answered basically all the questions. There is a follow-up with this that is actually specific for you that is being asked. What is the difference between an engineering management degree and a PMP certification?
Well, let me start by saying I don't have a PMP, which is a project management professional certification. I have investigated it in the past for my own reference, so I understand as the name suggests a certification to qualify you to become a project management professional, and it is done by the Project Management Institute. It's an internationally recognized certification. For a student with a 4-year degree, it will require 4,500 hours of project management experience, along with 35 hours, 35 learned hours as it relates to project management. And then you would apply and you take a test, and if you're successful, then you would be a certified professional in project management, which in basic terms refers to the initiation and the management and the closing of a project. For your engineering management degree, the difference is one is a certification, as mentioned before, you need 4,500 hours, and you need 35 in-class hours to actually apply and take the test. Your Master of Science in Engineering Management degree is an engineering management degree. It is offered by the University of Technology and also FIU locally, and it typically lasts 18 to 24 months. One of the courses in that program is actually project management. So I did a lot of core project management courses. Well, one core project management course, but a lot of the other courses embodied sound and core project management principles. So we got that experience from the Master of Science in Engineering Management. And on top of that, it really is a degree that is designed for professionals who want to enter management at a technical level or from a technical perspective. Some of the other courses that were part of the program that I personally enjoyed were Advanced Engineering Analysis, taught by Dr. Campbell, and also Engineering Economics. That was one of my favorite, Operations and Research Management, and also Supply Chain and Logistics. So really, as you can see, that's only a few, because we actually have 13 modules, so that's only a few. So it encompasses a wide array of knowledge, and what you realize is that, as mentioned before, during your course of study, your level of thinking starts to elevate, because you start to look at engineering not just in terms of carrying out steps for maybe a single project, but you start to look at engineering more so as a business, to examine projects to find out what the net present value is, the net present worth. So you start to examine engineering as a business. It encompasses a lot of simulation. So it's equipped you with the knowledge to optimize the process from a business perspective, and also it touched on HR principles in terms of management of people. So I really think it's a really all-rounded degree if you want to go into engineering management. So it is suitably named. And personally for me, I saw where my level of performance, as indicated before, at work significantly improved, and I apply those principles almost on a daily basis in my job function.
Okay, Ms. Walters, thank you very much for that response. There's a lot to take up.
If I can, I'll just throw one more thing inside of it.
Sure, Dr. Ellis.
For the PMP though, which you rightly said, it's an internationally accredited or accreditation in that sense, or certification. So it allows you to practice because it's globally recognized. So having that certification, they will quicker, if you wanted to function as a project manager overseas, they will quicker look at that than they would if you had a master's degree in engineering management, civil engineering, or any other degree, because the assumption is that you have covered to get to that point, you'd have had a number of years of experience, as you mentioned, which is about 36 months or 3 years experience in the field, plus the training, plus the degree that gives you that sound base upon which you would stand. So it's designed in that way to give it that across the board. Now, and that's not to say anything about the engineering management degree, because I think it's a beautiful degree that they have there as well. But it's just to make that distinction between the two. For one, trying to get registered, let's say even as an engineer, because as far as I know, Herb has one of their, and Melissa, you can see if that's confirmed that they have a number of categories. And one of those categories, or Auret could probably speak to that. One of those categories includes engineering management from my recollection. So if one wanted to get registered as a professional engineering manager, the board allows that, of course, built upon the engineering undergraduate degree as well. So I think that's something else to consider.
Okay, Dr. Ellis, thank you for the comments on that. It kind of assists with the clarification between the engineering management degree and the PMP certification. And I'm sure that our next presentee can speak more on the role of the PERB and how that PMP certification is integrated there. And I think we will just collect some questions now from the chat. There is one that is specifically for Dr. Campbell. And the question is from Nicholas Williams, stating that I'm also looking at Stanford or MIT for the future. I'm currently doing an engineering degree. Was it difficult getting into Stanford? Dr. Campbell. Dr. Campbell, are you still with us?
Sorry about that. Yes, it is difficult getting into Stanford or MIT. I was rejected. I did apply to MIT also. I got into Stanford. Grateful for that. You first of all, if you meet the academic requirements, you will get in. But if you're requesting a scholarship, that's where the time touch the road, because the tuition at these institutions, they start at about 50,000 US per year. You understand what that means, right? It's a lot of money. So yeah, you can come, you can go if you'd like at your own cost. So when you're applying and you're saying, but I need a scholarship, that's where you are putting yourself, as one would say, at a disadvantage in terms of being accepted. So some accept, some don't. It was very hard to get in, but I'd say this much. I got in because I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic before, which is more known as a good chemical engineering school. I was a chemical engineer there. And during my last 2 years, or last year especially, I offered myself to do research for one of this faculty there, right? He was doing something in chemical kinetics, which is eventually what I did for my graduate program, albeit that it was called a mechanical degree. Still the same chemical engineering I was doing. So when I engaged that faculty member, who was almost an emeritus, a sort of elder in the department, you show yourself interested, you apply yourself. During my last year, I also sat in a graduate class and studied chemical reactor design for graduate students. Don't think it's much harder than the undergraduate version. They have a lighter version for the graduates, but for the undergraduates, but you're able to sit with them. And that engagement, it is the same faculty now the same faculty member who would then say, you know, I know somebody at Stanford, or I know, you know, I would recommend you to go here. They are the ones who are going to write your recommendations. And it's not your degrees they're looking at. It's not your A's that you're looking at. Okay. Did you, during those few months that you were there, did you show yourself that you really cared to learn, that you are actually interested in the field of study? Or is it just about a title? And that's really what they care about. And so that is, I'd say, a large part of how I got in that type of engagement with persons who I think care about the discipline, and appreciated seeing that in a young person. All right. So it's not all about smarts. And as much as people would want to make it out to be, graduate programs and graduate students, persons with PhDs, really are not smarter than others. It's the absolute truth. They Some of them are lucky to get in, if it's called luck or cursed, I don't know. But they're in. And trust me, there have been bad stories too, of persons going to PhD programs and they lose their minds. Not because of it being intellectually too rigorous, but because of the discipline, because of the humility, because it draws out their life so much and they get so little pay, and their kids and their spouse are fed up with it, or you know, or their other members of their family, you know, or their old friends moving up in the corporate world and they still not getting any money. So when you ask, is it hard? That is what is hard. Don't think the intellectual part is hard. Okay. It's really normal people. And some of the best PhDs are people who weren't necessarily high grades, you know, but somehow they got into the programs and they show themselves to be disciplined and they care about the topic. That's all. I'm willing to put in the work.
All right, Dr. Campbell, thank you for your response on that. Again, some very interesting takeaways on that. And I will ask my following question and direct it to Dr. Ellis, a student from the School of Engineering, is asking, how exactly does one go about getting a PhD in engineering? What does it require in terms of the previous knowledge that you would have to have moving forward?
It varies from institution to institution, but as Paul rightly said, remember I told you it's literally a partnership that's going to be between you and the supervisor. So you could have all the desire you want to do a PhD. That does not mean you will get it. You could be the most desirous of it, and you may be the one who is left behind. The supervisor also has to agree, because even though you may submit a proposal, someone has to say yes to this proposal and is willing to work with you for this extended period of time. The least time, maybe about 3 years. The most time could be, I've seen 10 years and more, right? I've seen a number of years. So it could be a very long journey. For many reasons, it could go that long. It's not intended to go that long. If a full-time student should go 3 to 5, part-time should be an average 5 to 7. That's the average situation. But again, there are many factors that could throw that timeline way off. But it comes down to that relationship. So if you are finding a topic that you're very interested in as an undergraduate student, or even as a high school student, what I'm currently doing with my level 1 students is that I'm telling them, here's what, look in industry, find a problem in your community, find a problem that you're interested in solving. And then from day 1 in your degree program, you're going to chip away with each course you do to get a clear understanding as how I'm going to go about solving this problem. By the time you get to the end of your degree, in some ways, you may be able to solve it at that point, but in many ways, it may require more time, i.e. master's or PhD. So by then, you have a very clear direction what you're going into. The supervisors who are in the program would observe you as a student who's very focused, and already they may either approach you like my supervisor did and said, you know what, at the end of my master's or coming to the end, he said, here's what, are you interested in doing a PhD? At that time, I was like, no, I want to go back home and start make some more money. And he's like, no, consider it. But then the market turned. That was 2008. The market turned, so I had no choice. to say, okay, well, since I have time to kill, let's go do a PhD in the meantime. That's basically what it was for me. And so I went in it, and then I got to love it because he saw something in me that some of the times that you might not see in yourself. You know, supervisor sees you and says, no, you look like somebody that could do a PhD. And I currently do that for my students. I can tell the ones very early from year one who could potentially be PhD students, and the others who I know that they would give me great effort and pain throughout the entire process. So those students I tend to avoid in that sense, because again, like I say, it's a relationship, and it makes no sense. I'm with this person for this long period when I know it's going to end in divorce, which is gonna be the situation in that case. So I avoid that at all costs and say, let me stick with those who I think have the potential and at least the tenacity and willing to stick through the difficult times that are ahead, or that are gonna come, because they are gonna come. It's not an if, but or maybe. They will come. So you need to see that exemplified very early, which goes back to what Paul was saying before. So whatever that degree you're choosing to do, find an area, find a potential supervisor in the program that you're affiliated with. Let them know that you want to know what research they're currently involved in. Demonstrate interest in this area using your summers, using whatever breaks you have. And naturally, they will say this person, well, assuming you're doing the work, is one who I would want to engage in a long term. And they will now start to make that offer to you as well. So that's how I would say you put yourself out there. Don't just sit there and assume that someone's going to see you and say, hey, there goes a nice one, and I'm going to pick you. And remember, in many cases, there are hundreds of students, especially in the Ivy League schools, hundreds of students all over the world applying, all with first-class degrees, all with the same thing. What's going to make you so distinct from the next guy? It's certainly not going to be because you have a first-class degree. It has to be something that's above and beyond that shows them that I am, in a sense, unique. And it's not because you're a top student, but you have the drive to be the best at whatever it is that you can be within your capacity. And everybody loves that.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Dr. Campbell, I'm sure you share the same sentiment. Anything to add?
Oh, he said it all. As he said, it's not about the grades; it's about the drive. All right, and it's a personality thing too. You definitely. It's not saying a person. There are some persons who are not. I don't want to say cut out, but it's just not them. I am a person who routine isn't just doesn't suit me. I'm an inquirer. I'm curious, you know. So a job that is routine is just hell for me. And that's the type of thing that persons who are going to PhDs, that's their type of attitude.
Yeah.
So you need to know, you need to know yourself. I said this on Sunday at the other part of this workshop, that you need to know yourself, and that's important. You need to know yourself. All right, I did share. I may have to leave early, so
Understandable, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Campbell, Dr. Ellis, and as well Miss Miss Walters, for being here for our event. I even can see in the chat that when it was said that it is a 10-year commitment, it really highlighted the seriousness to them, what it takes to actually go deeply than what we see at the surface here as university students about engineering, and what it takes to further commit to the cause. And again, thank you to...
But don't scare them. I don't want them to walk away thinking that it is a 10-year degree. It is not a 10-year degree.
Yes.
As I said before, full-time, the minimum is 3 years. If the student applies themselves well enough and all the stars align, i.e. you have access to data. There's one guy I know was doing his PhD in environmental engineering, civil with environment, but he was doing a study based on rainwater data. And for that entire year, there was no rain. So for one whole year, there was no data to collect. Every time there was any forecast of rain, he grabs all the equipment, runs out there, and look, there's a trickle in the river. So there was nothing that was happening. So you could have these type of conditions as well. So don't think that it's because of you alone or the support. There are many factors that could throw off. So in your thinking through the process, try and figure what could go wrong, and then try and mitigate those as early as you possibly can. That will minimize going beyond the expected timeline. Paul, you can throw something in there before you...
Yeah, no, you said 3 years. So I just wanted to make everybody clear. It's 3 years after the master's. That's a PhD, okay?
Oh, yeah, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, just to clarify, yes. So it's 3 years of a PhD program after you pass the N level.
Dr. Campbell, Dr. Ellis, Miss Waters, thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you for sharing. And we really do appreciate the time that you've taken to speak to us and try and fulfill our young minds as to what it actually means to be an engineer in the field. And we'll be moving along with our agenda. And the next thing on it is to give a giveaway. And the question that will be used for this giveaway is simply this. What is the position of Dr. Leighton Ellis at the UWI Mona campus, and in what department does he fall in? Right. Remember that we'll be taking the answers after the end of the discussion, and we'll be messaging you privately to award the winner. And I will now hand over to my co-host, John Daniel Martin, for the third and last topic for tonight's discussion.
Thank you, President McFarlane. I appreciate all our panelists and their knowledge that they have departed with us. I've been a student of Dr. Campbell. It really comes home to me because he really been speaking to us greatly. And what even Dr. Ellis had said, it really tied in with everything that came along. As I say, you have to have tenacity to really finish a degree and finish anything that you put your mind to. So, Dr. Ellis, I have to say thank you for those kind words of wisdom, honestly. I will now proceed on to our next topic, which is the Professional Engineering Registration Board and Professional Engineering Certification. So I'm going to ask Mr. Smelly. I know that we have you in the background for a long while, sir, but it's your time now, sir, your time.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what is the role of PERB if you can give us an answer in that regard?
Well, I think the PERB question maybe should direct to someone from PERB, because I'm not with PERB. I'm with
That'll be all right. I think that's all right.
Yeah.
So
professional engineering certification, I could speak to that, but not PERB.
Oh, all right, then, sir. Proceed, sir. Proceed. Not holding any back.
Okay. Well, I'm a certified energy manager, CEM. I achieved that sometime in 2012. So about 8 years now. In order to be a certified energy manager, and by the way, a SEM is an individual, according to AEE's website. That's the Association of Energy Engineers. It's an international organization that, charged with the responsibility of promoting certain practices in the energy engineering field, similar to how a PERB in Jamaica, as we've heard from the other panelists so far, would promote the engineering discipline and ensure, proper ethics, a certain standard of work, etc. AEE does that internationally for energy managers. It's based in the United States, and you have members from across the region, across the world. A certified energy manager pretty much optimizes the energy performance of a facility, building or an industrial plant. So whenever you want to improve your energy efficiency, identify opportunities for energy savings, eliminate waste, increase your bottom line, that's your profits, you call it a SEM. And they really function as like a system integrator. So you look at the electrical, the mechanical, the processes, different aspects of engineering, even in terms of buildings. And the expectation is that you'd have a broad enough understanding. It's not always a deep understanding that's required, but a broad enough understanding to be able to appreciate what you're seeing and be able to make recommendations for achieving whatever objectives the client wants, whether that be to improve the process, to eliminate waste, or just to make it more, let's say, climate friendly. Nowadays, it's all about green initiatives, green buildings, etc. So SEM helps to achieve that by reducing CO2 emissions as well. So optimum solutions to reduce energy consumption in as cost-effective way as possible. That's what a SEM does. And I've been doing that, as I said, since, I've been certified since 2012. But prior to becoming certified as a certified energy manager, one will have to have, for example, an engineering degree. And having had an engineering degree, be a practitioner in the engineering field for at least 3 years, then you'll be able to sit the certified energy managers course, which lasts probably a week. I did my certification in the US, so I did a program for 3 weeks, for 1 week, and after 1 week, then I went ahead and sat the exam. I don't have a first degree in engineering. My first degree is in electronics and computer science, a double major. And through that, my focus has always been to ask a lot of questions and really dig deep into things. And after finishing that, setting up computer networks and getting involved, this was in 2006. And the environment in Jamaica was just ripe for identifying ways to reduce your energy costs, because energy costs in Jamaica is quite high. And so here at the University of the West Indies, relatively high. So here at the University of the West Indies, Mona, they started a program to address just that. And they wanted to figure out how can we get a better idea of how our energy consumption was going, instead of waiting until the end of the month when JPS would send you a bill, and then you see that bill and then you tear to hear and you feel like the world is coming to an end because such a high cost, You wanted to have a better idea, maybe in seemingly real time, every half hour, every 15 minutes at the end of each day. But that was difficult back then. The idea of smart meters in Jamaica wasn't popular. And so with my background in computing and electronics, I was able to contribute to the development of a system that pretty much allowed the large university campus, over 620 acres, to begin to monitor its energy usage in seemingly real time, creating a mesh communication network and storing that data for later analysis. And from that, when the data came in, we analyzed, we made suggestions for improvement. And that's how the whole idea of energy management came about for me. And then I worked in that field for 4 years, because to become a SIM, you have to work for 4 years. If you don't have an engineering degree, you have to work for 4 years as a practitioner before you can apply. Engineering degree, you save yourself 1 year. So having done the 4 years, I decided to now focus on preparing myself for the SIM. And in 2012, I completed that certification. So that's been the journey so far, based on the question you asked and the qualification that may be required. And during that same 4 years, by the way, I must add that in solving some of the challenges at UWI, because whilst I did my bachelor's in electronics and computer science from day one, and that's what 14 years now, I've been doing a lot of engineering projects. So deep theoretical background, but from practice, it has always been engineering. You have a problem, you understand it to the point where you can break it up. You design a solution, you test it, it proves its performance, you upscale, you consider the costs and you projectize it, you implement. I've been doing that ever since. There's so many projects we could talk about. And as time permits, I'll probably share a few. So that has been the sojourn, and I was able to pull that into my MPhil. I did a Master's of Philosophy degree, which is really more of a research type master's. And I completed that in 2013. And I was able to use the insights I got from being in projects to put together a system that allowed me to share successes in energy engineering. And through that same experience, I was able to make a few presentations internationally to other colleagues in the energy engineering field. And they thought that it was some really good work and would be able to achieve at UWI. And I was, through that experience, were nominated for a Legends in Energy Award. Engineering societies tend to have their way of recognizing achievements and encouraging. So I was able to be honored in that regard and invited to Disney World, see Mickey Mouse, all the fireworks. As big as I was, that was just fascinating. Special tour, and that's just how they treated you, all expenses paid. So so being an energy manager and a legend in energy has its benefits. So I've been sharing that experience ever since, and we've just heard a lot about PhDs and etc. But I'm close to finishing mine, and I must tell you that Dr. Ellis, Dr. Campbell are all spot on. It's quite an experience. So that's it for now. Any other questions? I'll be happy to take.
I have one personal question. Um, you as a certified energy manager, by any chance were you on the digital project per se in building your building?
No, I wasn't. I was aware of it though. I had a few students at the time because I do entertain a lot of internships each year. By virtue of doing a number of projects, there are student interns who, like you're doing your degree now, and you love opportunities to get on projects. Because that's very important as an engineer, right? So each summer we'll have various students who come on board, and I did have a few persons who I know who were able to become involved, but I wasn't involved in that project directly. However, I must say that during the same time that the digital building was being constructed, here at the Mona campus, we were constructing our Faculty of Medical Science Teaching and Research Complex. That building is, you know, really,
Yes,
really cutting edge.
I
Yeah,
can
and
appreciate the design.
you've been able to visit it.
Yes, my cousin lectures over there over you. She's a physics lecturer over there.
Excellent. So,
So
so,
I
so
can,
during that time, a lot of the ideas that we had at the time were able to codify in a policy and guidelines document, and the architects, the various engineers, developers were able to use that information. I was on the project team, and we were able to steer the construction of that facility in a way that allowed it to achieve very high energy efficiency standards. It's actually a jewel for us right now at Mona. We share through tours for persons who come from as far as different European countries, the Caribbean, just to experience an energy efficiency building here on campus that was designed locally, built by local skills and talents. Yes, Chinese helped us a lot in terms of their construction and having it done within less than 2 years for such a large, over 300 and something thousand square meters. So yeah, we didn't contribute to the digital building, but we had our own building being constructed at that time, and it has been rated to be among the most efficient buildings here in Jamaica right now.
actually proud to hear you say that we had our own deal with that project ourselves because that to me
Yes,
is it builds a level of pride as a Jamaican to know that we were on these projects, to know that
certainly.
we won't touch to it. Is it possible you could tell us like how efficient the building is currently right now?
Well, in terms of like what we call an energy utilization index, I don't have a number off my head right now because the number keeps changing. But I can just take maybe 30 seconds just to give you a quick summary of the various features that we have implemented. We have, for example, that building uses district cooling. District cooling is not very popular in Jamaica. That is where you generate cooling at a central location in bulk, and through large pipelines, you distribute that chill water to a distant location. And the fact that you can generate the chill water in bulk means that you can benefit from economies of scale. And in this case, we utilize absorption cooling, which is not popular either. And that same absorption cooling allowed us to now integrate it with our power plant that we now have on campus. So we're now using waste heat to generate cooling that we're using to cool that building. That's number one. Number two, the building actually utilizes many examples of natural lighting. We have space frames being used, we have solar monitors, we have skylights, you name it. We have some of the labs that are so well lit that you don't need to turn on artificial lights during the daytime. And yet you can run your experiments and your research in these nice lit space. It creates this feeling of well-being. In addition to that, we are able to cool the facility, air condition the facility using um, cooling from the ground up. So it doesn't allow us to cool a large volume of space, but more the people that were actually seated closer to the ground. We have had cases where we have a building management system. So I can stay from my computer, log into the building, I see a 3D version of the building, and I can go to each floor. It can monitor the temperature, the relative humidity, make certain changes. We use a lot of energy efficient equipment such as variable speed drives. I can go on and on. Even in terms of the building and the atrium, common spaces, we use secondary cooling to cool it. So overall, I would suspect one of the experiments we did, we got an EUI in the region of maybe 39 going to 42, kilowatt per square feet per year. It was quite impressive, which those are extremely good numbers.
Yes.
So, there's just a lot of features we could talk about. And that building, if you want to see green features, energy efficiency features, you can visit that building, and within an hour, you can be marveled by what you see. Solar lighting, etc., etc. It's all there.
Well, thank you, seriously. I have to say it is every time I walk past the building and I come over, it's really is a marvel of engineering. I must admit. I will come back to you though, but I want to ask some other questions before we proceed, because honestly, that's really a very interesting topic that you brought up. So being a certified energy manager. So I must admit, I'm very curious. Dr. Ellis, could you speak on PERB if you're so inclined?
No, man, I think Ority should speak on PERB. I'll speak on the ICE, Chartered Engineering. So
yes, I would really prefer that, because I didn't realize I would have to be waiting such a long time to.
Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry, I apologize, sir. I apologize.
Actually, I suffered a minor accident. I broke my left leg about few days ago, so I'm kind of not 100%. But since I had committed to join you guys, I decided I will.
Sir, I appreciate you coming out, sir. I must admit.
So you want me to proceed?
Yes, sir. Proceed.
Okay. My name is Orit Parker, and I'm a director at PERB. PERB consists of 9 persons, 9 persons on the board, and those 9 persons were recommended by the Jamaica Institution of Engineers. We have a registrar, we have a legal officer, and 7 engineers. And the office, as you all know, is 9 Linster Road, Kingston 5. Our mission is to regulate the practice of engineering in Jamaica to ensure the highest standards are met. And our vision is to be a globally recognized professional engineering regulatory body. PERB operates from the Professional Engineering Registration Act and the Professional Engineering Registration Code of Conduct. And this was established from 2004, and PERB reports directly to the Ministry of Mining and Energy, which presently is out of the Prime Minister's office. We have presently about 800 plus engineers registered, and we also have over 100 companies that are registered. The Act provides that we register engineers before they do any form of engineering in Jamaica. And to become a professional engineer, you must first have a degree from a recognized university. That, however, we also have committees that when you apply, we have committees that would go through your document, and if there's any questions or queries, then you would be asked to come and explain. For instance, the committees that we have are Credential Committee. The Credentials Committee is responsible to make a technical assessment of the suitability of candidates applying for registration as professional engineers, and therefore making recommendation for the approval to the board. Then we have the finance committee that deals with strictly the money. Because in order to register, you have to pay an annual fee. And according to our act, you can't practice engineering if you are not registered, whether individually or from a company standpoint. The Registration Act Enforcement Committee, if a company or an individual is violating any rules or regulations that it relates to engineering, then we have an enforcement committee that will go and bring you to book if there's any violation. We also have a program for accreditation, and that is what I was talking to you earlier about. There's an accreditation committee who will look at all the different courses, engineering degree courses, that enable someone to become a professionally registered engineer. We also have a communications committee and an audit committee. And finally, we do have what is called a disciplinary committee. For instance, if an engineer who is registered with PERB create any issue from a technical standpoint and would want and the company or individual could request PERB to do the necessary investigation, and if necessary, we also can withdraw your practicing certificate.
Wow.
If there's basically that's it.
Okay, well, I have some more questions for you. I have to say thank you for those insights into PERB, because as a budding engineers, as my listeners would say, we want to learn more how to become professional out there in the industry, because we don't want to be seen and be, then locked up for practicing illegal.
All right. Once
So,
you have that degree from an accredited university,
right.
and you have 2 years of practical experience. And bear in mind that that is going to be changing shortly, because there's no discussion now to increase that to about 4 years.
Wow.
And and within that 4 year, you have to be, whatever discipline you are in, you have to be exposed to all the different areas within that discipline. And design has to be some aspect of your experience.
Okay,
Engineering design.
most definitely there. Uh, as you had said, you kind of touched on what the journey
Yeah.
is becoming a professional engineer requires. So,
Yeah.
as you said, there are talks in now place at PERB now to increase the time from 2 years to 4 years.
4 years, yes.
Right.
I would say it is very, very advanced.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what is the entail? How does sorry after you graduate from your university, right,
Yeah.
sir?
Yes.
Your 4 years, is then you do the test, or is it before you do those 4 years?
After you have graduated from university, you would require to get 4 years practical experience
Before you can take the test.
before you can. To tell you, if the test is dependent on whether or not you have completed all the necessary training and exposure practically, because once you have been your curriculum covers all that I have discussed, and you are and you provide all your design drawings and your project schedules that you did. Um, the next thing basically is to come in and sit in front of a panel and defend your projects that you have done, and defend your design. But if the committee is of the opinion that you didn't cover for, I am electrical, but so if the committee is of the opinion that you tend to it seem to have more experience in transformer and power systems, but you have not had much of the transmission, then you have to come in to probably do an exam, or to come and defend your stewardship.
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand. So it's dependent on how you are
Yes.
feel and how
Yes.
you can defend yourself, basically.
Yes.
I understand. What
Because once you are fully trained, once you are trained, you should have been given all the necessary theoretical training. And what Perb is saying, that you must have practical training in all those areas. Because I even encourage some of my young engineering friends that if you are working in an organization that you are mostly exposed to a power system, and you have not been are really exposed to transmission or or say development and electrical engineering design and development, then what you need to do is to align yourself with some companies and try do little part-time work and get some experience in those areas. And if once you are there and you are doing, you're asked to do a little design, then your name must be on the drawing.
I have one more question. Do an engineer have to re-register every year, or is it this what
Every year, every year.
every year? And is there a cost associated with this registration?
The cost is $12,000.
Okay, no problem there. So, but pretty much you answered all the questions in which would be associated with PERM, because we touched on what is a professional engineer, why it's important, and what are some of the benefits of this certification.
Yeah.
So,
Once you have been certified, you are given your stamp,
right.
and you now have the authority to stamp every design work that you do. And because we anticipate that you will stick to your discipline, you
Right.
wouldn't you wouldn't you
Venture
would
out.
violate the code of conduct.
Thank you, sir. I have to admit I am quite more informed now going out after I finish my degree, and so are my listeners. So
Yes,
thank you again for giving your wisdom in the depths of becoming a professional engineer.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
I'm going to quickly go to Dr. Ellis for him to answer the question. Who is a chartered engineer, sir? So could you quickly answer that for us, please?
Sure. Similar to professional engineer locally or regionally. So you may have PEng, which you may have, or PE as you have here in Jamaica. In some places it's REng, like in Trinidad, it's a registered engineer. And in the UK, it's a chartered engineer. So they're all the same thing. Just as how you have a chartered financial accountant or a chartered, all these things, it's according to the Queen's setup. And they're based upon the Engineering Council, which is their version of PERB. In that sense, that would give you that authority or license to practice.
So I'm going to ask another question, sir. What are the qualifications into becoming a chartered engineer going forward?
Very similar to what PERB is moving towards, or most of the region has moved towards. One, there are 3 stages to become a chartered engineer. The first one is what they call the engineering base, or education base, I should say rather. which incorporates a first degree in engineering as well as further learning, i.e. a master's degree, or it could be a 4-year MEng degree, which is very popular in the UK. So that, in a sense, 4 years of continuous training, in that sense, up to the M level, the master's level, which is the highest taught level. Apart from that, having successfully met that base, you move to the second base, which is the initiating project development phase, right? Professional development phase. In this phase, you have professional development records. So as you progress throughout your programs or your year, which is relatively 4 years, you would have been taking records of the things you've been achieving. And you've also, so you're going to document that, and you should also plan your professional path to get to this point. So if you were, say you want to be a registered chartered engineer or railway or one of these other specialization, you're going to chart a course that goes along this line. And so you're going to plan ahead where you identify gaps from your educational base and your professional experience, and you go directly seeking this area to fill it in, just as Sir Orit was mentioning as well. Because before you get to the board, you don't want to get to the board to find out you're deficient. You want to make sure you plug all these holes before you apply, so you increases your chances as well. This, for the ICE, has what they call 9 attributes. Looks at leadership, it looks at technical design, analysis, and different areas. Health and safety and ethics are very, very crucial sections of the whole thing. In essence, you could be the best designer in the world. If you fail a test on the grounds of ethics, then you will never be allowed to practice, right? So ethics goes above all things in that sense, which now governs how you operate as an individual. The third stage is what they call a professional review. At this stage, you have an examination in 2 phases. One, you do a presentation and you're grilled for about an hour and 15 minutes by a panel of 2 professional engineers in your area. So with your application, whatever the specialization you say you're gonna do, you have a panelist of 2 panelists, which are subject matter experts. And so they will quiz you now on what you said you did in your designs. Everything is based on the documents that you have provided. So if you said you designed in this project, then they ask you a question on this project, walk us through the process, because you claimed you did it. And now, having done that, now, depending on your answer, that would clearly tell whether you did the design or someone else. Now, it's okay if you work as a part of a team. That's normally for an integrated project, an incorporated engineering level. That's a lower level. But as a chartered engineer, you're expected to have led the team and led the team more than once. So you're now the one that's going to be guiding other junior engineers in how to go about doing the designs, how to lead, how to manage. That's what the key you're looking for. And once you can demonstrate that successfully, then you've passed that phase. The next phase of the test has you doing what they call like an essay, a professional essay. This now comes back to your ability to articulate in writing. And it's something that is still tied to your experience. So they never go outside of what it is that you say you're applying for and what you should be able to respond. So they're now judging your way you reason and analyze. They pose a question. Let's see how you're going to walk us through the idea of this process. And you're now able to articulate that very clearly. Once you've done that successfully, then in a few months, 2 months generally, you will be awarded a license to practice, which now allows you to practice in the UK, in most of Europe, and also in Canada in many cases, under the Commonwealth situation, and also in some states in the US, such as Texas and I think another state, that allows you to practice without needing to get the PE there at the same time. So you have these kind of benefits, which I think maybe one of your questions, that's with some of the benefits that you have deriving from the process. And again, like I say, it's an international qualification or certification that says that you have met some standard in that sense.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ellis.
Can I just add something here? From what Leighton had said, ethics, it is critical, because regardless of whoever applies to become a PE, the first thing that you are required to do is to do an ethics exam.
Mm-hmm.
And without passing the ethics exam, you can't go any further.
Yes. Yes. And that ethics is based on the code that he mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
Most definitely, because I've been also being told a lot that engineers pay for their crimes if they don't pass the ethics course, because we go to jail if our designs fail. But a doctor bears his mistake, his or her mistakes. So that is true in respect. I wanted to ask Dr. Ellis, is there a separate board from PERB that governs the chartered engineers?
Right. So now, as I stated before, chartered engineer, for any professional registration you have, it's jurisdiction based. So let's get that right. So for law, accounts, whatever the profession is, it's jurisdiction based. So for PERB, if you have an engine, if I'm licensed to practice here in Jamaica, as I am, I can practice in Jamaica. I can't use my PERB license to go and practice in Dominica or Antigua or one of these other places. I have to become equally licensed there. Now, there's some reciprocity and it will allow an easier into the process, but I still have to get registered locally before I can practice there. Similarly, with the chartered engineering, if you want to go to the UK and practice, which is where the governing body exists, the engineering council there it's called, then you would have to have the same certification. So as a chartered engineer, I can't stamp drawings here as a chartered engineer and then submit that expecting it to be accepted. I would have to, as a chartered engineer, get registered here and then now submit whatever it is that's needed. So as I said before, it's very much jurisdiction based.
Yeah, very, very interesting, sir. Because as you know, many persons want to be able to understand these processes because they don't want to be able to end up getting on the wrong side of the law in that regard because it is really inconvenient if I'm putting it so lightly.
Yeah.
To go out in the field. But I have to admit that this conference that have been taking place over 3 days have been very eye-opening for a lot of us students because we tend to not realize what impact we have on the society and the world as a whole. We play in more advancing human race. So as we put it in our national pledge, you know, because at the end of the day, we have to realize that if we don't make innovations for society, society will tend to not move forward or transition into a new level of thinking because we are, as engineers, push humanity forward. If a man didn't think of saying, how can I move from point A to point B without pushing something? And they went and invented the wheel. You would still be pushing rocks to this day, if I be so bold. So there's always this level of innovation and a level of thinking. And we want to make sure that as students, we know that we have a place in this world where we take our certifications in hand to know that we can make a difference out there in the world. I must say that I've enjoyed myself. I'm going to see if there's any questions from the chat.
While you look there's one thing that was asked. One of the questions I remember being posed was, what's the benefit of being chartered in Jamaica?
Yes.
The benefit is not immediate in the sense that, like I said, you still have to get licensed here anyway. Where the benefit generally comes in, as we have seen a big shift in the global space where you have international companies moving to and fro. So recently, in more recent times, last 20 years, you had companies like Bouygues, you had Vinci, you have the China Harbor, a number of these companies. So because the qualification is internationally recognized, oftentimes you find that they tend to quicker draw for someone with this qualification that they believe was held by a higher standard. Now, of course, it's their own perception, but they believe that was held by a higher standard. And as a result of that, and familiarity as well, because they've worked with such individuals throughout the world. So they would quicker hire someone with that qualification, of course, plus the local, because you need that to practice locally. But it says something about that individual as well. So that's where you may have an added advantage over your peer who doesn't have it. But when it comes to just getting an average job, most persons don't know what chartered engineering means. So it wouldn't necessarily give you a competitive edge in dealing with an average person in Jamaica. That much I can tell you.
Thank you again, Dr. Ellis, for that comment, because a lot of persons were kind of asking, give us a little more clarification in that regard. So thank you for that comment. One more question for Mr. Smelly. What are the benefits for being a certified energy manager in having the certified energy manager certification in Jamaica? If you can proceed with that, because persons were asking that as well. And what are the benefits in that?
Okay, well, the benefits of having a certified energy manager certification in Jamaica are, in my view, it actually came about to represent a change in the thinking of the government of Jamaica, whereby, civil engineers, construction engineers, architects, etc. They have been doing, and I say they, as in those who are, say, PEs, for example, that we've been talking about, have been doing their jobs and been doing it very well for a millennia, very good at it. But the reality is that some of these buildings are not very energy efficient. And there's a big issue about the impact, the environmental impact that engineering work and engineering discipline has had on the world, on our planet, on our space. And there's a need to become more sensitive or appreciative of, your living space, indoor air quality, a sense of wellness, how you treat the environment, and just trying pretty much to reduce your overall consumption of, fossil fuels, etc. And so the government actually started to push for more and more persons to become certified as energy managers, to introduce into the local thought the idea that we can do things and do it more efficiently, better for the environment. And so the practice of certified energy managers started long before my time, but certainly became more popular in early 2000s, going to 2010. The last time I checked, I think we have some maybe 38 to maybe 40 SIMs in Jamaica. The number might be a bit more because my data is from 2018 when I last checked. We have a, similar to you have the JIE, we have the Association of Energy Engineers here in Jamaica. A number of our members are PEs in their respective fields. Some came through, well, few persons are like me who have more of a physics background, but has been working in energy engineering for so many years, and I've done so many projects. But it has gone a far way in helping Jamaica to achieve its let's say it's Vision 2030 National Development Plan. Jamaica, the place of choice to live, raise families, and do business. All of that comes into how Jamaica now becomes a part of the global thrust to be more sustainable, to be more energy efficient. I must say it's quite lucrative. It can be lucrative rather. Many people want SIMs on their teams. In some jurisdiction in the Caribbean, I'm aware of, and certainly in parts of the US, certain jobs you can't get without being a certified energy manager, because it will indicate that you don't necessarily have that exposed to that type of thinking. So being an engineer is wonderful, it's fabulous, but I think what the SIM try to do is to take it to not another level, but another perspective of thought in terms of how you carry out your practice and how to just be mindful of the environment and what you do. So that's where the SIM comes in. As I mentioned before, you will having become an engineer through training, through academia. You will now be required to work for at least 3 years in industry before you can begin to do the training to become a SIM. So that's a perspective. You can become a SIM locally through contacting the Association of Energy Engineers. I think they have training maybe an average of twice per year. It's not very expensive, maybe about 2,000, 2,400 US. That can cover the cost of the training. And the certification exam is about 1,200 US. And through that training, you can become qualified. I didn't do mine locally though. I did mine overseas, but it's pretty much largely the same thing. The only difference locally is that we tend to focus more on local building codes, local laws and stuff. While if you do it internationally, it tends to just be more of what happens in the United States. That's pretty much it. I don't know if I can elaborate more based on your question.
You pretty much answered all my questions in our initial talk, as it was, as I said before, it was quite interesting, as do the rest of my panelists, because honestly, I, as a student, have learned a lot. I must admit, and I greatly appreciate you guys sharing your time of wisdom and knowledge. I'm just going to check if there's any more questions from the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. So And it is, and I think my time is about to be wrapping up now because it's after 8. And I know you guys are all very busy, important people. So we're moving Jamaica forward. So as I said, I'd like to extend on behalf of my team here at UTech and the various JIE student chapters, we have to say thank you all of my panelists, Dr. Ellis, Sir Oret.
Yeah, man.
I want to say thank you, Miss Townsend and Miss Walters and Dr. Campbell, who was here earlier, and Sir and Mr. Johnson. I just want to say thank you all for coming out, imparting your wisdom and all your knowledge on our students. I know we'll take it in hand and moving forward in achieving our professional engineering careers. Because as I said, we can't build a society by just with only one of us. We have to be a collective group moving forward. So I thank you all for coming out, and I thank you again. So have a wonderful evening and take care, everyone. So have a good night and take care.
Okay. Have a good night. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.